Jonathan Mellon, and I'm with the Historic House Trust. I'm glad everybody could come. We appreciate all of you for your submissions and for taking the time to come out here. I'd like to introduce Angel Hernandez from the Bronx County Historical Society. After I give my little spiel, Angel will tell us about this site. He knows a lot more about it than anyone else. And this is Eric Stalzer from Apple Restoration and Waterproofing. It's his guys who are doing the actual work and doing a very good job. The restoration project, if you've been following it on our Facebook webpage, started last summer. We really got going in September. We're hoping to be done in August. So it's about a year, which is a pretty good time frame considering we ran into some issues with the weather. It's a pretty rough winter. We're all from the Northeast except for California. So we know, and another issue that we ran into, which we'll show you when we go inside, is we found that for a number of years moisture was getting into the house. Water was actually pouring down right here to the left of the door, and all the structural components on the east gable were severely deteriorating. So we had to get that repaired. What I'd like to do is have Angel give you a brief history of the site. We know it was Poe's home from 1846 to 1849, but I'll let you... Okay.
Well, good morning, everyone. I just want to say I'm glad you guys are here. I know that you guys are traveling from all parts of the nation, or from many places, so you being here is very special. This is the last place where Edgar Allan Poe lived for the last 3 years of his life, from 1846 to 1849. Now, before he moved here, he lived in a place called Turtle Bay in New York City, which is now where the United Nations is at. But as you know, in the 1840s, it was sanitary conditions were very bad. So bad that his young wife, Virginia, contracted tuberculosis. So at the time, there wasn't any medication to fight the disease. So the doctor would tell you, you know what, just get as much fresh air as you can. At the time, in 1846, this was the countryside. This was the fresh air that Edgar Allan Poe sought to save his wife from dying of tuberculosis. However, just a year later, in 1847, young Virginia died in this house at the age of 26. She was very young, but she was also very weak. And this is when Edgar Allan Poe's works really got emotional. At this house, this is where he wrote The Cask of Amontillado. He wrote The Bells, Annabel Lee, and he also wrote Landor's Cottage. Now, I love to talk about Landor's Cottage because he's actually describing the cottage and the environment around it. He mentions trees, these beautiful rivers, hills, this beautiful scenery. People would think he's talking about somewhere in the Midwest or Long Island. He's actually talking about the Grand Concourse in Kingsbridge Road. So if you look around you, this was part of a giant farm owned by John Valentine. And as you can see, there's a Valentine Avenue here. And when Edgar Allan Poe moved here in 1846, John Valentine rented this cottage to Edgar Allan Poe for $100 a year. Okay? However, John Valentine was such a big fan of Poe, and he also knew that Poe was very poor at the time, he didn't charge Edgar Allan Poe any rent after the first year. Now, this is not the original location of the house. The house is actually located across the street. If you see a tall beige building on the corner, that was the house's location since 1846 up to 1913. What happened in 1902, the city of New York brought an apple orchard across the street from the cottage, which is now where you're at, Poe Park. And in 1913, they had the house actually moved from across the street here, and it opened as a museum a year later. So although Edgar Allan Poe, he's gone, we still have a memory here. We still have his last home, and it's one of our major gems in the Bronx. And once again, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and I hope you enjoy the experience. Thank you.